AgroTalk show, a program where we discuss everything that is related to the preservation of grain in Zimbabwe. My name is Rachel Mwenyeheli. Now this year, the country is expecting a bumper harvest, one of the biggest that is likely to date. And today, right here, we're going to get to understand the Grain Marketing Board preparedness to receive the harvest, to pay the farmers, and also other related issues. And joining me to discuss more about this, we do have coming from the Grain Marketing Board, that is the Finance Director, Mr. Clemens Guta. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thanks, Rachel, for inviting me to this AgroTalk.
All right.
Now that we share our experiences.
Now, we are expecting a bumper harvest, and we're quite excited about that. What volumes are you actually expecting in terms of each crop?
Right, Rachel, let me point out this. I'm sure it has been said in many fora, with my chief executive having said this, I think 2 weeks ago. We are expecting 1.8 million tons of metric tons of maize, and we are also expecting 200,000 metric tons of traditional grains, and we're expecting about 200,000 of soya beans. And I want to point out that this is quite a record, 1.8 million. We last did what then was a bumper harvest, 1.2 million in the 2017-18 marketing season. So this is quite exciting, to say the least.
Oh, very interesting. And tell me, what are the value implications in terms of cash flow of these volumes, and are you actually prepared for this? Because you're saying it's going to be more than the 2017-2018 season.
Yes, Rachel, our budget for the procurement of the grain is 60 billion, which we have done a cash flow and submitted to Treasury. Treasury have confirmed in writing that they are willing to support us with availing of that 60 billion. So we are ready to take that grain.
That's amazing. Now, maize is our staple crop, definitely, and most farmers have this crop in their field. Some are even harvesting already as we talk at this point. But questions still arise on the issue of pricing, right? This is very important. How much are you going to pay for maize this year?
Right. If you look at what we've been doing traditionally, we would announce the price of maize at the end, at the time of marketing the grain. But this year, the government have announced a pre-planting price before, so that farmers are then able to plant. So this year for maize, it's quite a very good price. For maize, we are looking at 32,000, which is equivalent to about 376,000. And if you are to look at import parity price, it's roughly about 318, right? And by import parity pricing, here I'm talking about the maize having landed in Zimbabwe. But if you're looking at an FOB price in South Africa, it's $250 US. So a farmer in South Africa is getting $250. So you can see how competitive or how rewarding our prices are, 32,376. And this is up from last year's price of 21,000. This is for maize. Then if you look at traditional grains, which are your sorghum, your millet, your whatever, you are then looking at 38,000, which is equivalent to about 446. And import parity is 366. So you can imagine how much you are rewarding farmers this year. Then if you look at soybeans, it's 48,000, up from 18,000, which we were offering last year. So these are very attractive prices, which we expect that we are rewarding our farmers in a big way.
Right. We'll get to the traditional crop that you just talked about, the traditional grains. But let's take a look at the commercial crops. We're talking like beans, sunflower, your wheat.
Yes.
And have in the past, okay, the prices that were there were not so encouraging for farmers if you really look at it. So looking at this harvest, how much are you going to be paying for commercial crops? And if you can highlight a little bit more on that particular area.
Right, commercial crops, we are looking, like you rightfully said, we are looking at things like groundnuts, which we are going to be paying about 50,000 this year. Then you are looking at sugar beans, which are going to be paying about 80,000 this year. Then you are looking at corn flour, which are going to be paid about 35. Sunflower, we are going to be paying about 35. So these are quite competitive price if you compare to what is obtaining in the market.
All right, and compared to previous seasons,
yes,
is it much higher?
Yeah, it's much higher this year.
All right. And looking at the traditional grains themselves, you mentioned it a little bit earlier on, but if you can expand on it, on how much exactly you'll be paying and some of the things that the farmers should look forward to when it comes to the payments.
If you look at traditional grains, we have pegged the price at about 30% above what we are giving for maize.
Okay.
The reason being, it's drought resistant. So given that at times we experience drought, we are trying to promote traditional grains for the fact that when there's drought, we know that we are food secure. And again, for health reasons, I'm sure everyone now is now moving to traditional grains because of because of the health issues to talk about.
Okay. Let's just clarify something. Is there a flat fee for all traditional grains?
Yes, there is. It's a flat fee.
It's a flat fee for all traditional grains. That being said, all right, looking at the work that is put into, the crops, they are different in nature, obviously. So why should there be a flat fee for traditional grains when yet the work that is put into each crop is different?
It might not be that much different. I'm sure it's not as different as you would want to think. It's probably the same process. But these are crops which are not very difficult to deal with. One, they are cheap to run. You don't need to put a lot of fertilizer in it, right? And because they are all drought resistant. So they are basically in the same class. That's why we had to give it a flat fee.
Okay, so basically they're sort of in the same class, and that's why there is a flat fee.
There is a flat
now,
fee.
encouraging farmers to come through, of course, with their bumper harvest this year. What would you want to say to the farmers out there?
Right, to the farmers out there, we are saying we are prepared to take their grain. We don't foresee them queuing at our depots. Like I said earlier on, Treasury is very willing to support us. They have approved our budget of 1.6 billion towards import preparedness. This is, we are looking at bags, storage bags, dispatch bags, tarpaulins, and what have you, so that we are ready to receive the grain. Then we are also looking at, side of rehabilitation. This is electrical and mechanical, so that we speed up the processes when we are now receiving grain from the farmers. So that we are ready with. Then if you look at bag depots, we've got hard stands, which we put our maize in there, we've got the damage, we've got what. So all this Treasury is confirmed in writing, and we've started drawing down. So we are ready to receive their grain. Then also we have got payment platforms which are so efficient that they must expect prompt payment.
All right, that's amazing. Talking to the finance director that is from the Grain Marketing Board, Mr. Clemens Guta, just giving us some clarity on what is actually happening on the ground when it comes to the Grain Marketing Board and their preparedness to receive the bumper harvest for this year. Welcome back to the AgroTalk show, and we continue with Mr. Clemens Guta, who's coming through from the Grain Marketing Board. Now, this particular time, I want to take a look at the payment platforms that they have and that they've actually introduced. How are they going to do it this year? Now, Mr. Guta, if you could to explain to us, what has the Grain Marketing Board come through when it comes to the payment platforms that are there, especially for farmers this year? What should they get to expect?
Right, Rachel, I will make reference to, I must have touched on the card system, where we are now saying we have introduced a card system where a farmer can be paid direct into the card, right? Then we also have transfers to banks. The question might come, why did we introduce this farmer card? I remember pointing to a bumper harvest then, which was in 2017-18, where we had 1.2 million tons, which we received in that year. With that, you would expect a lot of traffic from farmers. So we had a lot of challenges with the platform we were using then, some of the platforms we were using then. So we then said, we don't have control of it, so let's have our own platform, which we've got control of it. Then we also had issues to do with the dormant accounts. Farmers, they probably have one delivery, 2-3 deliveries in a season, And that's when they use the bank account. The next you see them is at the next harvest. So with banks, these accounts would then be dormant. So if you are to pay into a dormant account, obviously we have challenges. That money will come back. Then we also had issues to do with wrong banking details, right? What happens is a farmer supplies banking details to a depot. It's then completed in a form, and then it's punched into our computer by clerks. So the mistake might be on the side of the farmer or on the side of our own clerks. So we said we must automate all that. That's what then motivated us to introduce the card system, to say, let's motivate it, automate it so that we don't have these manual interventions. And with that, we had then to do a due diligence, where I remember leading a delegation to Uganda, to Rwanda, and to Nigeria, where we are studying what was happening with a similar card system. Then we found that that's where our solution was. So we then came back. We then partnered with enterprise office systems, who are our partners in the card system. So we expect that to be running smoothly this year, because we have tested it last year. I'm sure last year, that was our first year using it. We had a traffic of about 400 million which went through that system. So it's now watertight, stress test, everything.
All right, interesting. You came up with different points there. But let me just take you back a little bit, okay? You talked about, you would get wrong banking details from farmers and things like that. With this system, what guarantee is there to make sure that this is the right banking details? Of course, because it's your platform, most probably that's. But what about the details themselves? What's the method that you're going to be using to collect the farmers' details?
Right. What we are basically doing is, instead of us having to punch the banking details for farmers manually, the system generates. So it's system generated. So it's not prone to any errors at all, given that it's system generated.
It's system generated. Okay, that's interesting. And looking at it, you also talked about, you've gotten to test this particular platform to see if it works. And so far, you're saying it's good. But have you actually been able to test this card system? Has it been launched anywhere else, regionally, internationally? Have you seen it working elsewhere as it is?
Yes. Like I said earlier on, that we visited Uganda. It was obviously going to have to see on the ground how it was working. That's why we visited, I think I'd left Zambia as well there, where we were actually going through a practical usage of that system. So yes, it's being used in regionally. And I must also highlight that enterprise office system is an agent of SoStress. And SoStress are they are the manufacturer, or rather the developer of this system. And this is an American company. So yes, I would say it's tested both regionally and internationally.
All right. Are you saying this is a bank that, Grain Marketing Board is going to be acting some sort in system as a bank?
Of course, you've rightfully said so. We are a mini bank, because we had to go through registration with the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe to be able to use this. So yes, we are a bank, and we actually do full KYC. So that's the advantage which our card has, because one of the challenges we had were these accounts which don't have KYC. So you'd find that they've got a limit. Now that we're going to be paying $32,000 for maize per ton, it means just delivering one ton, you are above the limit already. So this is a full KYC. So we are, you are right. We are mini bankers now.
All right, that's fine.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about a swift payment. You say that it's going to be swift. It's going to be good. Is it mandatory that when a farmer comes through, they say, listen, maybe I don't want to use the card system, this new platform that you're launching? Is there any other way they can also get to receive the money other than this way?
Yes, absolutely. It's an optional card. We have started it optionally to start with, so that some have got commitments elsewhere. They've got commitments with their banks. They've got loans which they've drawn. Now, take for example agro yield, which maybe they want to pay straight into the bank. So you would find that for now we have left it open, but I can tell you with the advantages of it, most of them are going to join us, because the card by itself is versatile. You can receive your money in your card and then transfer it elsewhere where you want, because it has got a USSD code.
Okay. But for farmers that don't want to use this platform, it is possible that they'll also get to receive SWIFT payment with the same platform as the card.
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Now let's take a look at also, as a farmer, let's say, right? What should I actually get to give the Grain Marketing Board in order to make sure that I received my SWIFT payment when I actually get to deliver my crop to you?
Okay. What has happened here is we have decentralized payment system to depots. We used to have it centralized at the head office, where we would do all the payments. But we then found that given the traffic at times which comes to our depots, we probably be overwhelmed with work. So we then empowered the depot managers to pay from that side, right? And hence we have changed their titles to business managers because they are now, handling. So we have decentralized the payment system to the depot heads, and we have given them instruction that after every day, you must authorize whatever has been delivered by the farmer. Then it's then picked up by head office, who then route the money to the bank. You ask it to say, what about those who are not using the card system? Will they get SWIFT payment? Yes, because the authorization is done on a daily basis. Then the next day, the money must be transferred. That's why we've always been saying that for one who delivers at a depot, payment is within 72 hours. Why we are saying that is when a farmer delivers, he must get a computer-generated receipt. Already his delivery is in a payment mode. And by the end of the day, the depot manager is paid. So yes, everyone, whether you're on the card, whether it is bulk payment to your transfers, there will be prompt payment to talk about.
Okay, so you talked about 72 hours.
72 hours.
In the event that 72 hours have passed, I do have my computer-generated receipt, all right? What are the procedures that I can actually get to follow to, do a follow-up on how far my payment is?
Right, like I said, we have empowered our business managers. They are going to be doing the payments. So if there's any query, you go and see the business manager. He should be able to handle it because he's the one who has paid.
I'm traveling from a distance. Is there any other way? Do I only need to visit the office, or I can also get to email, call? Is that available?
Yeah, there's a call center. But what I can promise you, Rachel, is if you have got the correct banking details, there is no way you will not be paid within that time. The only challenge comes when you've got incorrect banking details or you've got domain accounts. But otherwise, if all those are in place, surely you should get your payment within 72 hours. I must hasten to also point out to say, those who have delivered at collection points, they will not be able to get computer-generated receipts because there is no subsystem there. So what then happens is, that's why we then gave them 72 hours to be paid, because then the computer-generated receipt has got to be done at depot after certain reconciliations has been done. But he promised 72 hours at collection points, you get your payment.
All right, that's great. And we are talking to Mr. Clemens Guta, who's coming through from the Grain Marketing Board, and he's been explaining to us some of the payment platforms that they've actually introduced this season to make sure that farmers get prompt payment. Welcome back to the AgroTalk show right here. My name is Rachel Mwenyeheli. Now, there was a lot that was unpacked by Mr. Guta from the Grain Marketing Board as the finance director. And we want to understand a little bit more about the new platform that they're using as a payment system for the farmers as they bring their crops to the Grain Marketing Board and also receive their prompt payment. To help us understand this a little bit more, I have in the studio coming through is Mr. Petros Muchato, who is the Grain Marketing Board consultant from EOS. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Rachel.
Now, a lot was talked about, and it's interesting to note that the Grain Marketing Board has come through with a new platform so that farmers can get prompt payment. Let's talk about, the card itself. Just explain what the card is all about, this system.
Thank you very much. Basically, we have launched what we call a GMB farmer card from the premise of them having a lot of issues regarding payments, late payments, lost payments, returned payments, due to various reasons of dormant accounts, non-existing accounts, or low KYC accounts, whereby a farmer can't receive more than $20,000 in their account. So from that premise, we came up with a system. Then the card is called GMB Farmer Card System, but the actual system is called EFIS, which means Electronic Farmer Integrated System. That's the name of the solution which they are using for doing payments.
All right. This card, a lot of people are going to have questions. I did ask, does it work normally? All right. Does it work anywhere? Let's talk about, is it restricted when it comes to, when I get this card, maybe my money has been deposited in this card. Does it have restrictions where I can actually get to use it, or is it open to most platforms, if not all?
The card is very much open to any platform in Zimbabwe, in particular ZimSwitch, which means we can use it wherever there's a ZimSwitch POS machine, or a swipe machine as we call it. The card also allows you to transfer to any bank account or receive money from any bank account. And to add on that, we know remote areas like where most of the farmers come, they've got no network, in particular, especially POS machines. In some shops, they don't even exist there. We've put in place a shortcode for them, whereby they can dial *67#, and they can do all the transactions which they can do just like they are in a bank account. So it's more of an open platform system, and it involves a couple of banks which are participating in this program, and just to make sure that it's covering the whole spectrum of Zimbabwe.
All right. You talked about a short code, the USSD code.
Yes.
Does that mean that there is an application for this particular card system?
Yes. In particular, there's an application for it under GMB. We'll be able to send through which you can find from Google or Apple Store. But you find that in this market segment, where mostly the farmers who are outside Harare or outside the CBD, they will not use much more of the application, but the USSD code, that's the one which they would like to use because of connectivity issues. But yes, in application is available.
All right, that's
Yes.
great. Let's look at the security of this particular card. We all know that these days cards are getting cloned. People can steal your details and be able to use this card. Let's look at the security. How secure is this card? Is it safe?
Yes, the card is safe. RBZ regulations, they've pushed most financial institutions from using what was called the MAC stripe or the magnetic stripe card to the chip. And GMB has also responded, and they've acquired a lot of cards to cover for this season to give to farmers the chip and pin cards. Those are more secure cards, but the rule of thumb in terms of security of any card, don't share your pin with anyone, don't share it with your children if it's not necessary. But yes, the cards are secure. The chip and pin cards, those are the new cards which are more secure, and GMB is issuing those cards.
Okay.
Yes.
It's good to know that GMB is the one issuing those cards. All right.
Yes, in particular.
Great to know that. You're also working with a couple of banks, like you also mentioned
Yes.
earlier on. So are you also working with the RBZ in this regard?
RBZ are the regulators of any financial institution. So these are this payment platform was authorized and was signed up for them for GMB to be able to launch it. Yes, it's supported by RBZ as the regulator.
All right.
Yes.
Side marketing is real. Let's be honest. It's a possibility that someone can actually get their hands on this card and they might not be a farmer.
Yes.
What measures have you put in place to avoid side marketing itself?
Yeah, side marketing is a big issue in Zimbabwe. They call them a korokoza. It's quite a big issue. But with this system, what we've done, the registration of a farmer now involves your land size, your geographical coordinates where you are, so that GMB will know where the harvest is coming from in particular. We've added biometrics as proof of life and pictures, just like a normal full KYC account. So in principle, whenever someone visits the depot or GMB depot, they are supposed to authenticate themselves by identifying themselves using biometrics. We understand some farmers will rather send their trucks in and all those things for them to deliver. It becomes sort of a complex situation. But what we've covered in terms of side marketing is authenticate the actual farmer who was delivering the harvest. So in particular, we are only expecting harvest which is coming from registered farmers. But we understand we have got other people who are on the underground who would want to deliver and buy from farmers. But this system will cover that in terms of registration, that every farmer who's delivering is supposed to be registered. Either you've got the GMB farmer card or you've got your traditional bank account.
All right.
Yes.
Some people are rigid to change. They
Yes.
don't want change. They want to use the old system because that's what they are used to. Will you be educating farmers on, this new platform? Because this is new. What measures have you taken to make sure that, people get the education before the farmers come through and get these cards?
Yes, it is a new system, but it is in a year running now, because
Okay.
it has been a year we've been using this system. Of course, last year the harvest was not that high like what we're expecting this year. So some of the farmers, they are already using this particular platform, though they are not as many as we are expecting this year. So what we are doing is to conscientize them in terms of how to use the card in the expectations. The expectation is prompt payments. So regardless of you being on the card or you being on a traditional bank, you will still be able to get your payments promptly, because the system is using the registration platform as the channel of paying. So any farmer who would want to be paid promptly for starters, whether you are using your traditional bank or you are using this new platform for GMB, you have to be registered first. That's the rule of thumb there.
Okay, so
Yes.
you have to be registered first, which is
Yes.
very important. All right, so good to know that with the new ones that are going to be coming through, they will be able to choose. But one last question I'd really like to clarify is that with this system, let's say I decide to choose the card system that you've come through, that is the Grain Marketing Board card itself, the farmer's card. I might want some hard cash. Am I able to withdraw money using the system?
Yes, we are in consultation with the participating banks, which I'm not able to mention at the moment. They are willing to what we call cashback, in particular in supermarkets, to add value in that card. So farmers will be able to, for example, they visit a supermarket, they buy something, and they can get a cashback. Hardly nowadays do you see people queuing on banks trying to get cash. But where they are there in the rural areas, if they are participating banks and there are supermarkets there, they can visit and they can get part of their money as cashback.
All right. Well,
Yes.
I'd like you to repeat that USSD code one more time, just so that people are aware about it.
It's *676#.
All right.
It will prompt you to register, or it will say welcome to GMB farmer card system. But for you to be able to use it, you must have a card and you must be registered.
Your final words to the farmers out there, what encouraging words do you want to give them, especially when it comes to the new platform itself?
For everything, like for every change or anything else which comes as new, there's always some resistance. But what I want to assure the farmers this year is there will be prompt payments. The financial director is promised that 72 hours for those who are delivering remotely. So those who are not going directly to the centers, which is in 3 days would have been paid. Bring your harvest to GMB and your payment will not be lost and you receive your payment in time.
All right, that's great. Talking to Mr. Petros Muchatu, who's coming through as a consultant for the Grain Marketing Board, and he's just been explaining to us this new platform that is the Grain Marketing Board Farmers Card, and how you can actually opt for that platform if you wish to receive your payment promptly, just the same as any other bank that you could be using. This has been the AgroTalk Show. Thank you so much for joining us. Looking forward to some more talk right here next time.